right, Shalom. Hopefully, brothers and sisters can hear me. I know it's very windy, but Abarat is our Lord's will. I'm coming in loud and clear. All right. So before we get started, all praise, glory, and honor be to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rachahak Wadash. Double honors to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David, started with the 144,000, and the rest of the men, women, and children out of the 12 tribes, whom Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai will ultimately have mercy upon. All right. I'm your brother Matazatba from the branch out here in Great Millstone, Melbourne, Australia. Back at it again, week out and week in, to prophesy the downfall of this wicked ass queendom. All right, ruled by Esau'S. All right. Now, getting into the lesson, what inspired me to title the camp session today, Esau's blessing equals the age of fire and flame. All right. And I was inspired to do this lesson through a TV series I've been watching a little over, about a few weeks from now, entitled Sandman. All right. Now, this TV series is it's watchable on Netflix, I believe Peacock as well. And the director of the TV show, his name is Neil Gaiman, all right, which he's also responsible for TV shows such as Good Omens and also American Gods, all right, which the beloved elder Malcolm from GMS Chicago goes into from time to time. But long story short, what you have to understand is a lot of these movie directors and TV show directors, they're what you would call insiders, all right? They understand some of the prophecies according to Bible, all right, or the Bible, I should say. And not only that, they love to use Greek mythology and they try to merge it with biblical prophecies. So within the TV show Sandman, all right, the director Neil Gaiman, there was a particular scene in season 2, episode 5, where you had the Endless family. All right, now the Endless family, for those of you who don't know, is centered around Greek mythology. You had 7 gods. All right. One of them was the god of destruction, which is what we're going to go into today, which ties into biblical prophecy. And then you have the other one that was known as Dreamless. All right. The god of dreams. All right. And the other 5 was the god of desire, the god of death. What was the other one? The big brother, the god of knowing, prophetic, not so much prophetic, but he can tell the future and what was going to happen. And then you had the god of despair, and then you have the god of delirium. All right, craziness. Okay, now the ones we're going to focus on today is dream and destruction. All right, dream and destruction. Now that's what it is. The water for the correction, destiny. All right. Now, in season 2, episode 5, the opening scene, there's a scene that takes part in what is it called? Adunel House, 1675 in England during the time of the Renaissance era. And that scene was set up and it was shot between the god of destruction and his brother Dream. And destruction, he invited his brother Dream into this house because he was trying to warn him of humanity, mainly the Edomites. And in the scene, he started with the Greek Empire because he stated that the Greeks, they found the way through science on using atoms, right? But they didn't have the technology, obviously, back then to utilize to make fire and stuff like that. And what he was trying to explain to Dream, his brother, was the fact that he saw towards the end, and he was referencing the time period that we're in today. He actually had the ability. He said that basically when it came to the blocking out of the sun. He referenced the missiles. He referenced pretty much, without saying it in so many words, thermonuclear destruction. And he said because that no matter what happens with these people, all right, there was no turning them back. In other words, he saw the age of fire and flame. And he said that will be the time also of my end, because he said he was referencing it that when that time comes, the age of fire and flame, that's pretty much it for all of us. And so what he tried to do, when you understand the series, he had to leave his realm, because part of his realm was to provide that destruction. Whatever anybody had in their mind in terms of plotting, scheming, using crafty counsel, or whatever the case may be, to set themselves in the point view of destruction, that's what he was known to do. And he tried to explain to his brother Dream that no matter what humanity does from this point on to the end time, it's inevitable. All right. And Charisma said he skipped through it because it was boring. Hey, to me it wasn't boring. The whole season is fire, especially season 2. All right, you got to get into the storyline, and Neil Gaiman, he does a good job. See, certain flicks when you watch, yeah, they can be a little bit boring, but if you actually sit through it and pay attention, Esau will put little nuggets in there of prophecy. In season 2, there's a lot of biblical prophecy, especially episode 5. All right, but I highly suggest you, Akim, go and watch Sandman. There's a lot of biblical reference, especially in season 2. All right. Don't just start at episode 5. Watch the beginning episode 1 to try to get into it, leading up to it, and then you will see. But the main point that Destruction told his brother Dream was basically the age of fire and flame. And then a little light bulb went out, and I said, yeah, because the Bible speaks about, all right, let's get that. Let's start off with this precept. All right, now that we got warmed up going into it. This is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments robed in blood. Meaning what? Back then, all right, when the Heavenly Father used to intervene on our behalf going against other empires that we were held captive, all right, there was always war amongst the different nations in terms of being on horses with chariots, swords and stuff like that. All right, noises going on or whatever the case may be. But it goes on to say, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. What's the title of the lesson? The age of fire and flame. All right, because that's the time that we're in. Okay, the second death is going to be via way of thermonuclear destruction, whereas the first death was via the flood. Okay, the water going back in the time of Noah. All right, and so now it's very interesting because Neil Gaiman, who's the director of the movie of the TV series Salakia Sandman, I believe personally he's an insider. Generally, a lot of these Hollywood directors and stuff, they are insiders. Give you an example. What's his name? Who made the movie Eyes Wide Shut? Uh, Stanley Kubrick. All right, Stanley Kubrick, and what's the other guy? Cameron. What's the guy who made the movie Titanic? Um, and also George Lucas for Star Wars. They're all insiders, man. Okay, what's the other guy's name who passed away, who made X-Men? All right, they're all basically they're all insiders, man. Okay, they're all insiders, meaning they understand prophecy, like the maker of X-Men, Marvel, and stuff like that. He did an interview which they erased off the internet, but he pretty much alluded. He said, yeah, your true X-Man, he said he got the inspiration through the Bible. All right, because the true X-Man is the elect. And if you understand prophecy, the scripture says that the house of David should be like God's. All right. So when you go and watch all of his movies, all of the X-Men series, especially I think one of the best ones he ever did that actually showed the end time of biblical prophecy was X-Men Apocalypse. Okay, go and watch that over again. All right, because they showcase on how the Russians, when pertaining to Ezekiel the 38th chapter, all right, when he put the spirit on the Russians in the scene, when they put the key in and turned it, and they pressed the nuclear buttons to be shot off. Yeah, that was all biblical prophecy. That aligns up with Ezekiel 38:10. He shall think an evil thought. You see? So a lot of these shows and movies and stuff that you watch, you got to pay attention, man. You got to have a spiritual eye to discern these things, you know? And again, like I said, when I was getting into the series of Sandman, there's a lot of prophetic allegories within that TV show. All right. But once again, you got to be spiritual to discern these things, man. All right. A lot of y'all just watch these shows and stuff just for entertainment purposes. But when you start to be mature through the spirit and you're, coming up on a level, you don't watch these shows for entertainment. You watch them for prophetic allegories, man. All right. And that's how you see a lot of these brothers are able to put together lessons and stuff like that. Because we're in a time where we're watchmen. All right. So part of being a watchman is not just focusing on what's going on in the news per se, but also you may stumble across things that they put in as subliminal messages with their TV shows and movies and stuff like that, man. All right. Because everything around us is spiritual. Everything is spiritual. You see what I'm saying? So let me read this again. Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments robed in blood. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. And what's going to cause that destruction with fuel and fire? ICBM missiles, right? Now, what I did was I went into Chat GPT today just to ask them about that scene in the TV show Sandman, episode 5, and how that prophetic allegory that was put in between destruction and his brother Dream, how does that spill over to biblical prophecy? And so they gave me a table of reference. It says the symbol reference, age of fire and flame, biblical parallel, Malachi chapter 4, verse 1 and 2. And I think this is 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 10. So let's grab these precepts real quick. So we're going to go to Malachi chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. Now, if you're in the book of Malachi chapter 4, the title, it reads final admonition. Now, the word admonition goes into the word warning. So this is the final warning. Okay. That's why you have the service to prophets, starting with the apostles, the bishops, and the elders on down. We're here to give you that final warning, man, before the Lord brings the famine of the word, pursuant to Amos chapter 8 and verse 11. Okay. Because there's going to be no excuse in the time of Jacob's trouble. All right. So it says, Malachi chapter 4 and verse 1. For behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble. And that's starting with the Edomites. Okay. Malachi 1 and 4, the border of wickedness. But it also goes into our people too, who are not right, mainly the 2/3, okay, that are over in America. All right. You're going to be judged by that thermonuclear destruction. It says, in the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith Yahweh of hosts, that it shall leave them neither root nor branch, right? Because everything is going to be left a desolation in the land of America. All right. This is how serious this thing is, man. Okay. And the writing is on the wall. All right. You got Russia that just supplied Iran, okay, with more military aid in terms of, warheads and stuff. And now China's getting involved. Okay. They also said that they'll back up Iran. All right. And why is that? If a brother could please post Zephaniah 3 and 8. Okay. And somebody also get Joel 3 and 9. Babakusha. That's the time that we're in. The gathering of the nations. Right. It says, verse 2, but unto you that fear my name shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healings in his wings, starting with Yahweh Shai, and ye shall go forth and grow up as the calves of the stall, man. That's speaking about the elect. All right. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. If you truly are a man of Yahweh Bashem Yahushua and you're truly in these scriptures, you will know that it's always been about the elect. There's a remnant that's going to get it. Everybody else is not going to get it. That's why this truth is not for everyone. All right. That's why Yahweh Shai said, if the world loveth you, all right, you know, how does it go? Let me get that real quick. Let me see. Yeah, John 15 and 19. If ye were of the world would love his own. But because ye are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world, therefore the world hated you. All right. So if you in this truth, if you in this ministry, and you're being, you being skeptical as to why you're taking a liking, or not even that. If you are feeling some type of way of, the pushback that you're receiving, being in this ministry, you're getting weird looks, whether it be from your family members, friendship groups that you used to be a part of, or associates, or whatever the case may be. It's because this truth doesn't sit right with their spirit, and it's not supposed to. All right. Somebody get Babakashah, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 12. All right, where it talks about think it not strange concerning the fiery trial that's to try you. All right, because when you come into this ministry, all right, it ain't supposed to be easy peasy, man. No, the Lord didn't set it up that way, man. You were chosen for a specific reason, so that doesn't mean that your mother is going to get it, your father's going to get it, your sister, your brother is going to get it. All right, that doesn't mean your wife is going to get it. That doesn't even mean your children is going to get it, man. Yahweh Shah said in itself, a man's foes should be they of his own household, man. I had come to set variance, all right, a man against his son, the mother against the daughter, and vice versa. So if you sitting up there and you're getting offended because, well, this ain't what I signed up for or whatever, then guess what? Chances are you're not of the elect, man. Okay? You are offended at the gospel of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. Okay? That's just what it is. All right? So, all right, so now let's go from there. 2 Peter 3 and 10. All right. A new heaven and a new earth. All right. That doesn't mean that the whole earth is going to be renewed. All right. When you go into that word new, all right, in the Greek, basically it goes into, let me see, let me get this here real quick. When you go into that Greek word, all right, I believe it's kainos. All right. The word kainos just means recently made or refreshed. All right. So it's not talking about the whole earth is going to be rebuilt, all right, from the elements. No, it's going to be refreshed. The true reset, the true global reset is going to be Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai's kingdom being established here on the planet Earth. All right. So now let's read 2 Peter 3 and 10. But the day of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai will come as a thief in the night. And why would it come as a thief in the night? Because if you're not keeping your garments, as the scripture says, which is an allegory for keeping the truth, the basic foundations of the understanding of the gospel, right? If you don't be steadfast in the doctrine that you have been taught, all right, and if you allow for the things that you have learned from the apostles on down to escape you, that means that when Yahweh Shah returns, it's likened unto a thief in the night, because you're not going to know when the trouble is going to set at hand. All right. When martial law is declared, when Esau starts to roll in, okay, shutting everybody down, going into everybody's houses, taking man, woman, and child. All right. Handcuffing them, throwing them into this concentration camps. All right. That's the day of Jacob's trouble, man. And then ultimately, when those missiles are going to be shot off unexpectedly, okay, that's the day of the Lord that coming as a thief in the night. That's why Yahweh Shah said, watch and pray, for the flesh is, weak, but the spirit is willing. You're supposed to stand upon your post and watch for these things so that you don't be taken back and Yahweh Shai comes back as a thief in the night. All right. You don't want to be caught off guard when shit hits the fan. That's why every day, without fail, to the best of your ability, check the news, Check the alternative news. See what's actually going on, man. You know, there's an old saying: if you stay ready, you never have to get ready. All right. If you call yourself, if you're teaching this truth and you call yourself a prophet, that's the sort of spirit you should be coming in. You're supposed to be a watchman, right? So let's read this. 2 Peter 3:10. But the day of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. That great noise represents the missiles. It says, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also and the works that are therein shall be burnt up. So, that's why our forefathers spoke about we look for a new heavens and a new earth wherein dwelleth righteousness, because everything in this society is not going to last, man. It's all temporary. All right. The works therein, which goes into the philosophies, all right, the idol worships, the statues, and all of this stuff. All of that's a thing of the past, man. All right. That's why the only thing you should be doing right now is getting your house in order. Okay. Things that you have a bad habit of doing, it will behoove you to try to eliminate yourself from those habits, because those habits during the time of Jacob's trouble, they can pretty much overtake you. Okay. Because of the lust of your flesh. So if you don't nip those bad habits right now, you could likely give into those bad habits during the time of Jacob's trouble. You see what I mean? So this thing is very serious, man. All right. And you should treat it as such, because Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, he didn't need to give you the grace to wake up to this truth. And a lot of you jakes, you're just sitting on it. You see, you're just sitting on the truth. You're not really doing anything, man. All right. The scripture says that, the Lord doesn't want you to be lukewarm. He would rather you be hot, meaning to be on fire for this truth, or cold. All right. But if you're in between, man, he's going to, spit you out, you know? So verse 11, 2 Peter 3:11, it says, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, it says, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, right? Okay. What manner of conversation are you to be in, man? Okay. The scripture says, what's that, James? Let me get that real quick. Let me see. I think it's James 4. Or is it James 5? Bear with me 1 second. Let me see here. Book of Remem. Not James, Salakia. Malachi 3:16. All right, the book of remembrance. Because in our holier conversation, we break bread with one another. We do sit downs. We talk. This is Malachi 3:16. Then they that feared Yahweh Bashim Yahushai spake often one to another. And Yahweh Bashim Yahushai hearkened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahweh Bashim Yahushai and that thought upon his name, man. So you want to be amongst that number, okay? What manner of holy conversation ought ye to be in, man? Remember, the scripture says that when it comes to the elect, starting with the 144,000, no guile was found in their mouth. That's what represented them to be a virgin. Okay, spiritually that is. All right? Because our conversation is constantly on prophecy, constantly on manifesting the names of Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, man. Okay? When it talks about no guile, that's essentially going into the fact that you're not mentioning any other names of any other gods. You're not bringing in corrupt doctrine, which falls under filthy communication. That's really what that's going on about. right? So no, what manner of conversations ought you to be in, knowing the time at hand, man? Okay, your mindset. Where's your mindset within this truth? Okay. Patrick Store says a brother asked me, "Is porn a sin?" And I didn't know how to answer. Well, technically, it's not written in the Bible as a sin, but for instance, the word porn goes back to the word porneia, all right, which means sexual immorality. Okay, now when you go into sexual immorality, that falls under what? Adultery. That falls under the alphabet community, incest, bestiality. All right, and when you look at pornography today, uh, a lot of some of those women are actually married. All right, so when it comes down to it, all right, what did Yahweh Shah say? When a man looketh upon a woman, he already committed adultery within his heart. Now, that scripture in Matthew, the way that it was written, all right, it was written the wrong way, because what he was actually alluding to is it's not the fact that if you look at any woman, you commit adultery. No, because how did you get your current woman now? All right. My wife right now, when I first met my wife, I lusted after her. I just had to have her. That's not a sin to lust after a woman if she's single. How else do you make her wife? Right? Make her your wife, Salaki. Does not the scripture says a man that findeth a wife findeth a good possession? So you lust after your woman. It's not a sin to lust after a woman if she's single. That just means you are a man. That's your manly nature, man. Okay? The glory of a man is his woman. You see what I'm saying? But 9 times out of 10, when it comes to pornography, all right, um, this is how it works. Number one, as a man, let's talk to the brothers. For you to take part in such an activity like that, constantly watching, what does it do? It can cause you to commit um, sexual immorality, because one, it messes with your psyche. So the more you keep watching it, when you get out in public, right? And let's say you may see a beautiful woman or whatever, you don't know if she's with someone or not, right? But guess what? Demons can actually start to jump on you, and you have the what even Elder Manata Zaba call it the sex lust demon, right? Which is very real. Demons can jump up on you and can cause you to commit such an act. You see what I'm saying? So now you got to go back to the drawing board. Do you think it's wise for you to be watching porn? The answer to that is very simple. No. Okay. What did Apostle Paul say in 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter? Let's get that real quick. All right. 1 Corinthians 7. And I'm going to start at the top. It says, "Now concerning the things whereof you wrote unto me, it is good for a man not to touch a woman." Now, why did he say that? Because some people will take this scripture out of context and say, well, see, Apostle Paul, all right, he might have been a gay man and stuff. He telling, men, don't touch a woman. That's not what he meant. The reason why he said it's best for you not to deal with a woman, it was speaking about in our day and age, because he said, as you continue to read on within the chapter, knowing that the time is short, okay, treat it as though you have no wives, meaning don't focus so much on your woman, because your woman can actually get in the way with you teaching this ministry. All right? Yeah, it is, but it's all good for now. All right, may Yahweh Bashim Yahushai keep us until I close the camp. If not, that's okay. We'll go to my second campsite under the pergola thing or whatever, and we'll be all right. But let's continue on. So what you got to understand is this: in our time right now, those of you brothers who have wives, okay, when the Apostle Paul said, be it though that you have no wives, it wasn't the fact that you supposed to 100% neglect your woman. No, he was saying don't focus too much on putting your wife on a pedestal, all right? Because what happens when you give your all to a woman, okay, she can pretty much remove you from the task at hand. And we have many examples of that in the scriptures, King Solomon being one of them. Okay, what happened with King Solomon when he put all of his emphasis into his, his concubines when he got up in age? We know the history, right? So it's the same thing now, man. If you are in this ministry and your focus is on your wife more so than it being on this truth, more than likely your woman can take you out of the truth. And the apostles have likewise over a process of many times teaching this word. Okay, they've given us examples of that going all the way back to the school of One West. All right, so continuing on. 1 Corinthians 7:2. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and let every woman have her own husband. Now, the brother brought out a minute ago, when you go into that word fornication, you have the Greek Strong's G 4202, which goes into the word porneia, which means illicit sexual intercourse or sexual immorality. So yes, if you're breaking it down, if a brother asks you, is porn a sin? Not in the case of, you're not going to find it in the Bible say, well, porn is sin. No, but you have to break it down that yes, and in the sense of it can lead to you doing sexual immorality, because the more you keep watching it, okay, like for instance, this young generation that plays GTA, right? They did a recent study that the more you play that sort of games, it it gives you a triggering to go and commit such acts in real life. Could we all agree with that? Could we all agree that when you play games, fighting, shooting games and stuff like that, the more that gives you a deepening psychological effect, so much so that when you come out here in the real world, you want to commit such acts. So how much more if you're watching pornography, especially a man that doesn't have discipline within himself? He'll go out and see a beautiful woman, and then what do you think is going to happen? He's going to try to take her. You see what I mean? So there you go. Like the brother Nakai said, it makes you more violent, right? So how much more if you're watching pornography, man? Yes, pornography can cause you to commit sexual immorality, because within pornography, there's a lot of fetishes. There's a lot of fetishes. You know what I'm saying? You got themes of, I slept with my stepsister. I've done this and done that. The scriptures speak against that in Leviticus, the 18th chapter. You see what I mean? So when you break it down from that sense or that context, yes, it will make sense, because it can cause you. Yeah, hey, the brother put it, Shalom, GMS in his likeness. Y'all about Shema Shabrakatah. A lot of porn stars are married. Hey, did I not say that earlier before the brother came on? See, that's the spirit, okay? Because like the Akia just said, yes, a lot of porn stars are married. So guess what? Somebody get the precept when Yahweh Shah said in Matthew that, if a man looking upon another woman, which in context he was speaking of, if you look at another woman's wife, you've already committed adultery within your heart, meaning your mind. All right, which also you can back that up with Matthew the 15th chapter, when he was talking about that it's not what goes inward for a man, let me get that because I don't want to butcher it, to defile himself, but what comes out, meaning the actions, because the action starts with the thought, right? And then once you get that thought, okay, what happens from there? You put it into action, right? All right, so somebody get that precept in Matthew, and I'm gonna get this in Matthew 15. All right, if you can, Babakushab. Not, it's all good. I'll find it. All right, so this is Matthew 15, and I'm going to start at 15, the heart of man. Then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. And Yahweh Shai said, are ye also yet without understanding? Do ye not yet understand that whatsoever entereth in at the mouth goeth into the belly and is cast out into the drop? Because he was talking about men eating with unwashed hands, right? Verse 18, but those things which proceed out of the mouth come forth from the heart, and they defileth the man. Okay? Speaking of it, whatever you think in your mind, okay, it starts with a thought and then it turns into an action. That's what defiles you. right? For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, going back to the Greek word porneia. So like the brother just said, a lot of porn stars are married. So guess what? If you're watching pornography and you don't know if that woman's actually married behind scenes or whatnot, first, it messes with your psychological thought because you're emphasizing so much of, man, yeah, sleep with the stepsister, yeah, a woman cheating on her husband, yeah, I like that. And like Nakaf said, when we reference GTA, they have that mode of thought that, oh, you know what? I can do this in the game, so more than likely, I can probably get away with it in real time. Well, guess what? The same could be said if you're watching pornography, because if you spend most of your time going into those different topics and themes, okay, those cut scenes, more than likely, when you go out into the real world and you see a beautiful woman, you're going to think about all those different scenes that you watch on a day-to-day basis, and then you think that you gonna try to make yourself as that as that porn star or whatever. So you gonna try to take that woman, all right, and then you gonna put yourself in grave danger here within Esau'S society, all right. So in that context, what you should say to that brother is, it can cause you to commit sexual immorality. Okay, that's the way that I would do or say something like that in that regards, right? You don't want to watch pornography because it can defile you, okay, by giving you evil thoughts on what to do, okay, committing adultery, committing fornication, okay. Did we not learn our lesson from Mr. Pegging himself, Alizar from former Sakari? Did we not learn our lesson about that situation? You see what I'm saying? So now, okay, the apostles of Great Millstone, the bishops, the elders on down, okay, they always give us examples of what to do and what not to do. Somebody get Isaiah chapter 30 and verse 20, Babakwa Shop. All right, let's get some of these precepts. And Tawada Akim, all right, Brother Nakaf posted Matthew 15 and 11. Not that which goeth into the mouth to follow the man, but that which cometh out of the mouth, this to follow the man, right? And once again, that goes through your thought process. The word, the Hebrew word for heart goes back, the word for heart goes back to the Hebrew word lab, which means your mind. All right, let's get this here from the beloved brother GMS in his likeness. Matthew 5 and 28. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. Right. All right. Now, once again, don't get simple minded. That's not necessarily talking about you can't look at a woman. All right. Because again, some of you brothers who have women and wives, how did you get your woman? You lusted after her. It's not a sin to lust after a woman who's single. Okay. What Yahweh Shah was speaking about in context was lusted after another man's wife, which actually goes back to the law in Exodus. Right. Brother GMS in his likeness also posted 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 22. Abstain from all appearance of evil. Right. Okay. Remember, you want to keep yourself spotted from this world, man. All right. So again, if you're dealing with an individual, okay, who has a weakness falling into watching pornography, that's all you have to do is explain to them that it's very easy for you to fall under sexual immorality, which is something you want to abstain from doing. Okay. That's how you encourage that brother, man. All right. And like Apostle Paul said, going back to 1 Corinthians, and we'll wrap it up after that so we can get back to the lesson at hand. All right. 1 Corinthians 7 and 2. Nevertheless, to avoid fornication. So in other words, to avoid sexual immorality. Okay. Let every man have his own wife and let every woman have her own husband. Listen, you got to understand, man, the ratio to women, all right, is very, in comparison to men, is very high. So I will question that, brother. If you have to watch such degrading acts of wickedness, why is it so hard for you to go and find a woman? It should not be hard for any brother to go and define a companion, all right, so that you can abstain from fornication, man. Go out and get you a woman, man. Go out and find you a wife, man. Okay. Somebody get the book of Hebrews, I think it's the 13th chapter, where it talks about the marriage bed being undefiled. Babakusha. All right? Because the marriage bed is undefiled. So if you have a brother that's struggling in the flesh, okay, because he's getting these evil thoughts of watching what he's watching, of course, that's going to add more affliction, and demons can jump on him, man. It's the same thing. Like if you're listening to certain music that has different frequencies and stuff, demonic demons can jump on you. You know what I'm saying? So you have to protect, you know, like the brother brought out, 1 Thessalonians 5:22, abstain from all appearances of evil. All right. Matter of fact, the water Yahweh Shemel Shah, that's another precept. Um, Let me see here. There's a precept in the Apocrypha. This is Sirach 37 and 27. Sirach 37:27. Check this out. It says, my son, prove thy soul in thy life and see what is evil for it, and give not that unto it. You see that? So what you should be telling other Akim is, look, 2 Corinthians 13:15, examine yourself. You need to go out and prove what is good for your spirit and what is not good for your spirit. And whatever is not good for your spirit, whatever is evil, to the best of your ability, with the measure of faith that has been dealt onto you, you need to abstain away from that. Okay? To the best of your ability, abstain away from that. Okay? And you need to follow the path of righteousness and seek that what is good unto your spirit. Those are the things you want to sow unto your spirit. Okay? And the water brother Nakat and GMS in his likeness, both Akim posted. Hebrews chapter 13 and verse 4. It says, marriage is honorable in all, in the bed undefiled. But whoremongers and adulterers the Most High will judge, right? Okay? Because what does that mean? That means once you get a woman, okay, the bed is undefiled, meaning you can have your woman, okay? As long as you ain't doing anything like anal and everything else like that, which is sodomy, okay? Everything is lawful in your bed. That's between you and your woman, okay? Because when it comes down to it, all right, let's get this here real quick. Very good to have. Zonovan Compact Bible Dictionary. Now let's go here, all right, to the word marriage. And I want to show you, brother, something. It's been a couple of years since I brought this out. All right, but this is what, because even the scholars tell you this, right? It says marriage. It says marriage is an intimate personal union to which a man and woman consent. All right. It says consummated and continuously nourished by sexual intercourse. See that? That's why Apostle Paul, he broke down in 1 Corinthians, the 7th chapter, that let's get that real quick. Pardon me, because I don't want to butcher that. 1 Corinthians 7:3, it says, let the husband render unto the wife due benevolence, and likewise also the wife unto the husband. The wife hath not power of her own body, but the husband, and likewise also the husband hath not power of his own body, but the wife. You see that? Verse 5, here's the point. It says, defraud ye not one the other, except to be with for consent for a time. So you got to continue to nourish your marriage by coming together in the bedroom. Okay? That's why I had the Akim to bring that precept out. The bed is undefiled. Okay? The marriage bed is undefiled. All right? Because sex is marriage, man. That's how you and your woman come together. All right? But see, this society is so damn wicked that Esau has flipped everything upside down. So now you're getting with women that they're complaining. They don't even want to help to nourish the bed. You know, here it is, you know, a man, you know, he's a man. So he wants it for his woman. Long story short, and what does she do? She starts making excuses. Oh, It's too late. I got a headache. You know, I've worked all day. I'm tired and stuff like that. Right? It's evil as hell, man. You're supposed to work with each other and keep your marriage afloat by constantly, as it says here in the definition of marriage, okay, consummated and continuously nourished by sexual intercourse, okay, and perfected in a lifelong partnership of mutual love and commitment. You see that? The Lord made that for that very purpose. You see? So that's what it is. Let me put this back, right? So what I'll do is if the spirit permits me, I'll touch on that topic and go deeper into that. All right, because I kind of want to get back to the lesson. But yeah, just to keep it simple for that brother, you know, who question you about pornography, just tell him it'll be not wise to tap in such a thing because it can lead to sexual immorality. All right. So back here on the topic of you know, the age of fire and flame. Right. This is now we're going into the character of destruction from the TV series Sandman, right? And it gave us the precept from biblical parallels, Isaiah chapter 66 and 15, and Revelation chapter 18 and 8. So let's pull those precepts real quick. And I'm just keeping an eye on the weather. All right, if it starts to spit, we're gonna head out to the next destination. All right, so let's get Isaiah chapter 66. We should all know this by now. And 15. And it reads, "For behold, the Lord Yahweh will come with the fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire." All right, which aligns with the TV series The Sandman season 2 episode 5. Okay, when the god of destruction met his brother Dream, and he was trying to warn him that, look, humanity is at the brink of destroying themselves because they will not stop at seeking to go deeper and deeper. And so many words, right? Let's get Revelation 18 and 8. And this is talking about the destruction of Babylon the Great, which is America. And it reads, it says, "Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is Yahweh Bashim Yahushai who judgeth her." Right. All right. So you can see that just based off that one scene in the TV show Sandman, there's a lot of prophetic allegories, man. And this is why we try to tell you, Akim, that you have to look and view everything from a spiritual lens. All right. Because a lot of people, it's more than just waking up every day and tapping into the alternative news and stuff like that. No, a lot of the times, a lot of these movies, TV shows, and whatnot, they got a lot of prophetic allegories, man, that you can tap into and give you inspiration to do lessons. You know, you dig what I'm saying? So now also from Chat GPT, it says symbolic reference, collapse of an old order, which we know today. Second Esdras 6 and 9 tells us what? Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it, right? Because we're currently under this old rulership being currently ruled by Esau Edom, okay? And in that scene, the God of destruction, he understood that. He was trying to break it down to his brother Dream to say, look, this is the reason why I'm pulling out of the endless family, because I don't want to have no part of that. You see what I mean? He said, I don't want to have no part of that because it's a never ending. These people that is wicked, that continues to use science to further their destruction, pretty soon is going to be to their own detriment. That's basically what he was trying to say all right, within that episode. And Lord's will, I'm gonna do a part 2 as a follow-up after camp, so that you can see that scene of what I'm actually talking about, so you can get a visualization of what he was actually going into. All right. So the next symbol reference of that episode is giving me is a cleansing of the world. All right, because this current world that we live in, it needs a big cleansing. And how's the Lord going to do that? By thermonuclear fire. The first cleansing was through the flood. This second cleansing is going to be through thermonuclear destruction. Okay. And what that goes into, we're going to get, let's get Zephaniah. It's giving me the precept in Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, and to pour upon them my indignation. Okay, righteous judgment. Even all of my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. See that? That don't get simple, because that doesn't mean the entire earth is going to be destroyed. All right. But majority different parts, mainly America and Israel, is going to be destroyed by thermonuclear fire, and wherever else the Lord is going to have those missiles to hit. Okay. But the whole earth is not going to be destroyed, because we need, as it mentions in Psalms chapter 149, you need subjects, man. All right. Bind their kings and nobles with fetters of irons of chains. Okay. So the heathen nations that are left over, okay, after the destruction, the Lord is going to keep them, because they're going to have first dibs into slavery. All right. Which shows you and proves to you that the whole earth is not going to be destroyed. Right. So then it gave us Isaiah 65. Let's go there real quick in verse 17. Yeah. It says, for behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered, nor come into mind. Right. Because this age has to pass on. Okay. Let me see that. Let me get that in second Esdras also. Immortality. All right. This is second Esdras chapter 7 and verse 43. But the day of doom, what is that? What is that talking about? What is the day of doom? Right? That's a question for you Christians. All right. And that's another title for one of you Akim if you want to take it. What is the day of doom? It says second Esdras 7 and 43. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time. What's the title of the lesson? The age of fire and the flame. All right. That's basically Esau's blessing, really, because what Esau doesn't understand is when his father Isaac gave him the blessing of that short rule, he didn't read the fine print. Okay. And that fine print goes into he does not understand his latter end. All right. That's why this man is losing it right now, man, because his kingdom is at its end. Somebody, Babakushat, get Job chapter 14 and verse 5. All right. That's the time we in, man. Okay. We continue to read this on Salakia. Second Esdras 7 and 43. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time, and the beginning of the immortality for to come, wherein corruption is past. You see that? That's what it means when he says, I'm going to make a new heaven and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. That's what we seek after, because right now, this current society is corrupt. All right. And to prove that, let's get Isaiah chapter 24. Okay. This is Isaiah chapter 24, verse 5. It says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. Right. It says, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. That's why the earth is defiled. You see that? Somebody, Babakusha, look up the word defile in the root etymology and see what that goes back, and post it on the chat. All right. So what makes the earth defiled? All right. Basically, when you leave away from the law, statutes, and commandments. All right. This is why we're catching so much hell, because as Israelites, okay, Let's get Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 5. It says, behold, I have taught you statutes and judgments, even as Yahweh, my power, commanded me, that ye shall do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. It says, keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the nations, right? So you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, going back to our forefathers, we didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments. Because all the nations round about right now, they were supposed to look upon us, and as the scriptures can say, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. Okay? That's why we were given the laws, man. All right? But because we were disobedient under that first covenant, what happened? Okay? The Lord has set up the basis of men. All right, according to Job 9 and 24, and also Job chapter 30 and verse 8. The basis of man today represents who? The Edomites. Okay, now the brother posted the Wada Nakab, defiled from the etymology online. It says from the 1400th century to desecrate or profane, mid 15th century to make foul or dirty, also to grape or deflower. Right. Okay. And on the verge of to desecrate or profane, the word profane means outside the temple. Okay, that happened to us on a carnality level when the heathen nations came and defiled the sanctuary, but also that happened to us spiritually. Okay, because what do? We committed spiritual fornication. We defiled our temples. Going back to what? 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter. Right. Let's grab that. We defiled our temple. 1 Corinthians chapter 3 and verse 16. Know ye not that ye are the temple of power, and that the spirit of power dwelleth within you? If any man defile the temple of power, him shall the Most High destroy. For the temple of power is holy, which temple ye are. You see that? So you got to understand, going back to Isaiah 24, let's go back to it. Isaiah chapter 24 and verse 5. It says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. That's how the earth is defiled. Okay? Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. That's the only way to cleanse it. Because there's two purifications. Well, there's two agents of purifications. One of them is water. That was known as the first death, the flood. The second agent of purification is fire. All right, and the Lord is going to cleanse the earth through that plague, which that ultimate plague goes back to Zechariah, the 14th chapter, dealing with the ICBM missiles. All right, let me see here if there's anything else on that. All righty, yeah, no, let me see. That's good on that. All right, so let me go back to this chart. All right, beginning of a new kingdom, right? So they've given me the precepts. Daniel 2:44, Revelation 21 and 1. So let's grab those precepts real quick. All right, this is Daniel chapter 2 verse 44, the divine kingdom. It says, and in the days of these kings shall the Most High of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. What in the days of what kingdoms? The kingdom right now started with the Edomites and all of the nations, okay, that's currently subject unto it. It says, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Which you can precept this to Revelation, the 19th chapter, when it talks about Yahweh Shai coming with the crowns. Let's grab that real quick. All right. Many crowns upon his head. Let's see here. Is it Revelation 19? Salakia, bear with me. Right. Revelation 19, Salakia. And I'll start at verse 11. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse represents purity, all right, and power. And he that sat upon him was called faithful and true. And in his righteousness, he doth judge and make war. All right. Remember, Exodus 15:3. Yahweh is a man of war, man. All right. You Christians, you got it, backwards, thinking that he's about to come back, no, on an actual white horse and talking about some, hear ye, and gather up all of my loved ones. All right. Nah, that's not how the Lord is coming back to get down, man. The Lord is coming back with a mighty shout, man, pissed off and angry for the controversy of Zion, pursuant to Isaiah, the 34th chapter, right? So it says, verse 12, his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, okay? And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. That name is going into his rank, all right? And why did he have many crowns? Because he's coming to consume all of these kingdoms. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name was called the Word of Power. Going back to what? Isaiah, the 63rd chapter. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? Okay. Also, Isaiah 47:3 says what? That when Yahushua returns, he's going to return in his angelic form. He's not going to meet thee as a man. All right. He's not going to meet thee as a man. Right. So it says, verse 14, and the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen and white and clean. And that's speaking about the Alahayim. All right. The Alahayim, which are the angels. Because remember, it also references in Daniel chapter 12 that it's going to be a time so bad that even Michael, okay, Machiala, which means who is like the power. Okay. Michael is going to have to stand up for the children of thy people, the sons of Yasher Allah. Okay. Yasher Allah, Yahi, Shar, Prince, Allah, power. Okay. Which is the Hebrew word for the English translation, Israel. You see? It all ties in together, right? So, okay, last verse. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and the wrath of the mighty power. All right? So Yahweh Shai, he's coming to get down, man. You see what I'm saying? And that's why he said, you know, the scriptures actually say, knowing the terror of the Lord, we persuade men. Okay, telling you the day of judgment is coming. All right, the kingdom of heaven is nigh at hand. Repent. You see what I'm saying? Salakia, get a drink of water. All right, brother asked a question. All right. All right, so brother said, last question, I woke up a lot in the middle of the night. And when I do, I usually pray, but a lot of the time it's either 144 or 441 or 414 or some variation. I know it's a sign, not sure. Yeah, look, obviously 144, all right, on a spiritual level, that represents the 144,000, which represents the body government, but also the number 4 represents mercy, all right, that represents mercy. Now, we hope and pray that we are of those men, and we hope and pray that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai will ultimately have mercy upon us. You understand what I mean? So yeah, on a spiritual level, okay, you can discern through the spirit that, yeah, okay, it is a sign. Like I remember one day, a few months ago, I had some taste from some rotisserie chicken, and when they put my order through, they had a screen with your order number, and on that screen, with my name next to the order number read 144. All right, and I remember I screenshotted it and I sent it to my rib, and I said, "Tell me that ain't spiritual." All right, what's the odds of me going and getting some rotisserie chicken? All right, and they gave me the order number 144. So it's all symbolic. It's all spiritual. The elder from New York, he was doing a car lesson, and when he pulled over, a car in front of him, the license plate said 144. All right, call Halayim Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. So, you know, it's not so much that you need some sort of prophetic, allegory in the sense that, yeah, it break it down and it means, nah, man, it's just a spiritual number that, that 144 represents the body governor, all right, of Yahweh Shah, the elect, all right, and then, the number 4 also means mercy, okay, which the Lord has mercy upon us. Lord's will, we are part of that number, but not so much that you need a deep breakdown or it means this or that. No, you know. Um, but the Lord can do that. You know what I'm saying? He can give you uh, different images. He can make stuff happen in front of you, all right, for you to believe in him or to also give you a boost of faith. You know, remember, every man has been given a different measure of faith. Not every brother is the same. Every brother's belief in terms of the sort of level of belief that has been instilled within them from birth is not the same from the next man. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. All right. So the beginning of a new kingdom. Let's get Revelation 21 and 1. It says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. What that's going into, the first heaven and the first earth, is talking about this current rulership under Esau, Edom. And no more sea, meaning none of these kingdoms are going to be in rulership anymore. All right? That's what it's going into, because we are at the brink of Jacob being the beginning of that followeth, if that makes sense. You see what I'm saying? So, in actuality, all right, this is what we are constantly waiting for, man. Okay, again, the title of the lesson is The Age of Fire and Flame. This is Esau's judgment. You see what I mean? So now, let's pull up my list here. Isaiah chapter 13 and verse 19, it says, in Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldeans' excellency shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? And this is speaking of Babylon the Great, America. All right? So if you understand the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, on how the Lord used the different elements, all right, merged them together to bring that fiery judgment upon Sodom and Gomorrah, he's doing the same thing in this day and age. But as it says in Isaiah the 54th chapter, I have created the smith, which, let's grab that. Isaiah 54 and 16. It says, behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth the instrument for his work, and I have created the waster to destroy. So what's the modern day smith today? Your top scientists, okay? They showed you that in the movie Oppenheimer when they created the atomic bomb, all right? So the Lord has raised up scientists, men, to create the waster of destroyer, which represents those ICBM missiles today. You see what I mean? So it's all spiritual at the end of the day, man, right? So let's get another precept. All right, Isaiah 26 and 20. It says, come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpassed. This is why, before the missiles hit, we got to be taken out before the seven trouble. And to prove that, let's go to Job chapter 5 and verse 19. Job 5 and 19. It says, he shall deliver thee in 6 troubles. Yea, in 7 there shall no evil touch thee. Because the 7 trouble, which goes hand in hand with the 7 trumpet, actually means those missiles hitting. And remember, the scriptures tells you that the earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. So we got to be taken up. We got to be taken up in those chariots before the destruction comes, man. So we don't feel that. So we don't go through that. You see what I mean? So that's why it says that we shall be delivered by the 6 troubles. Because when that 7 trouble comes, the missiles is going to hit. But we got to be up before that happens. And prove that further, when you go to Revelation, the 15th chapter, the scene of heaven, verse 1, it says, "And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them is filled up the wrath of power." And here's the point, verse 2. "And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that have gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of power." And how we break that down is basically that's an image of the elect being up in the chariots, and they are watching the destruction from on high. Okay, as it were, a sea of glass mingled with fire. That's the vision that John the Revelator saw. Okay, he saw the elect on the chariots, and they're looking down at the destruction. Okay, and now Baratazah, we're those men. All right, and mercy is given to us to be able to be beamed up and to see it for ourselves, man. Okay, all right, so let's move on from there. This is Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 2. It says, "For the indignation of Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fury upon all their armies, and he hath utterly destroyed them, and he hath delivered them to the slaughter." But I thought everybody can be saved. So if you're teaching a doctrine that everybody can be saved, salvation is for all people, then who are these nations that are utterly going to be destroyed? All right? That doesn't make any sense. Somebody has to fit this bill. See what I mean? So, hey, man, it is what it is. So this is Jeremiah 49 and 17. "Also, Edom shall be a desolation. Everyone that goeth by it shall be astonished, and shall hiss at the plagues thereof." And the plague represents the missiles and also the chariots, because the chariots, they're going to get down too. All right. Remember, Esdras, when he saw the vision, and second Esdras, the 13th chapter, he said when Yahweh Shai opened his mouth, which was symbolic to the chariot blasting that beam of fire, which we will call today a laser beam, he said that he shall perceive nothing but dust and smoke. All right. When the armies, they tried to rush, when they saw Yahweh Shai manifest himself through the sky. All right. And you have to visualize that vision. All right. All right. So we're going to wrap it up in a couple of minutes because that rain is going to come soon. All right. Jeremiah 50 and 39. It says, "Therefore the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall be no more inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation." So that cuts that doctrine of Israelites that's talking about that America is the land of Israel. How can it be the land of Israel when the Lord tells you that here it's never going to be inhabited ever again? Make that make sense. All right. Once again, you got a lot of false teachers and a lot of false prophets. All right. Ezekiel 21 and 9. "Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith Yahweh, say, a sword is sharpened and is also furbished." And that modern day sword is what? The ICBM missiles. You can liken that unto Isaiah chapter 34, which, let's get that real quick. All right, this is Isaiah chapter 34 and verse 5. "For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea and upon the people of my curse to judgment." See that? It says, "The sword of Yahweh is filled with blood, and it is made with fatness, and the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For Yahweh hath the sacrifice in Basra, and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea." And that's talking about Babylon and Great America. All right? All of your, princes, kings in there, your witches, your warlocks, 2/3 of our people that's destined for that judgment, they're that main sacrifice within that land. You see what I mean? That's ultimately what it's talking about, right? And then also when you go to the book of Job, it also links up with the he shall flee from the iron weapon. What do you think that iron weapon was talking about? See? All right, another precept that goes into the age of fire and flame. Joel chapter 2 and verse 3. It says, a fire devoureth before them, and behold, them a flame burneth. See that? A flame burneth. What's the title of the lesson once again? The age of the fire and the flame, part 1. So I'm going to do a part 2 of this series, right? The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness, yea, and nothing shall escape them. Because what it's talking about is when the missiles are fired off, before them, the land of Babylon the Great, which is America, is like the land of Eden. All right. It's all built up, all right, arrayed and stuff like that, which was symbolic of what was mentioned in Revelation chapter 17 and chapter 18. Okay. The glory of his excellency. Right. But once the missiles pass over and hit their targets, the land is going to be left utterly desolate. Right. That's why it says a desolate wilderness behind the missiles, meaning after the missiles get done dropping, it's going to be a wasteland. They showed you that in the movie, The Book of Eli, with Denzel Washington. All right, here's another one. Amos chapter 5, verse 18. It says, woe unto you that desire the day of Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And to what end is it for you? The day of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is darkness and not light. There you go. See what I mean? Because also in that cutscene in the TV show The Sandman, episode 5 in season 2, the God of destruction, he mentions about the sun being blocked out. And I said, damn, that's prophecy. Because the scriptures speak about the sun being darkened and the moon not giving it her light. All right. Because ultimately, when the missiles are shot off, okay, they showed you that in the movie X-Men, the Apocalypse, when they were being shot off from the other ends of the world, it was blocking out the sun, the smoke. All right. So that's why I said a lot of these directors, okay, they are insiders. A majority of them, they know Bible prophecy. But what they like to do is they'll give you the prophetic allegory in the sense of the prophecies, and they'll try to link them with Greek mythology to throw people off. All right. So we'll get a couple of more, then we'll close out. All right. Let me get that. Let me get that Zechariah 14, the plague. This is Zechariah chapter 14 and verse 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. All right. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. You see what I'm saying? We call this the Sarah O'Connor scripture pursuant to the movie Terminator 2 Judgment Day. All right, that cutscene when she was dreaming and she saw the nuclear blast. Once again, that's the director's name, James Cameron. James Cameron. All right, affiliated with that movie Terminator. All right, he's another insider, along with Stanley Kubrick, who made the movie Eyes Wide Shut. All right, to expose what Esau does behind the scenes in order for you to make it within this society. All right. Zechariah 14 and 13. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from Yahweh shall be among them, and they shall lay hold every one of the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. All right. So Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to cause that division. All right. That's the times that we're in. All right. Let's see what else I got here. This is Zephaniah chapter 1, verses 14 through 18. It says, the great day of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is near. It is near and hasted greatly. even the voice of the day of Yahweh, the mighty man shall cry there bitterly. And the mighty man is talking about the military. All right. And if you want to get a deeper visualization or a better understanding, all you got to do is just read Second Esdras, the 13th chapter. All right. It says, verse 15, that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness. See that? And what's going to cause that thick darkness? The ICBM missiles. All right, the destruction. And it talks about a mushroom cloud, right? Verse 16. It says, a day of the trumpet and alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers, right? And I will bring distress upon men that they shall walk like blind men. See that? But see, the elect, they're not going to be blind, because Isaiah 33:6 says, wisdom and knowledge should be the stability of thy times, the strength of thy salvation, right? It says, because they have sinned against Yahweh, and their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as the dung. All right, dung meaning shit. So did not the angel tell Esdras that those who have loathed the law of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, the same must know it after death by pain. So in the day of your visitation, pursuant to Proverbs, the first chapter, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai is going to laugh when your destruction coming. He's going to laugh when your calamity coming, because you chose not the fear of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. You chose not to get right. You chose to disassociate yourself away from the truth. You did not want to hear the words of the prophets. So what do you think ultimately is going to happen to you? You're going to be destroyed without remedy. And we'll end it by this. Okay? This is Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 1. Because time and time again, 2/3 of our people, you've been told, okay? We sighed and cried, okay? We piped to our fellows all day long, but you have not danced to the tune of the beat, as mentioned in Matthew, the 11th chapter. All right, so we're going to end it here. Proverbs chapter 29 and verse 1. He that being often reproved hardeneth his neck shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. And that's going to happen to 2/3 of our people. You're going to know it through death by pain, man. All right. And so with that, we're going to wrap it up. I pray that this camp lesson has been edifying. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakat, Ha, Kodash. Double honors once again to the beloved apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David. Lord's will, you will edify, and it's on to the next. Shalom.